Hi, everyone, and welcome to A Balancing Act, a podcast devoted to helping families navigate memory loss. I'm Kelly Burton-Shaw, a licensed speech-language pathologist and certified dementia care specialist. In my 20 years of practice, family members have told me how caring for a loved one with memory loss, while also trying to manage their own family, their career, and life, truly becomes a balancing act. So my goal each week is to help you and your family face these challenges head on. Together, we'll find the answers, because no one should walk this journey alone. Let's get started. When I was young, my siblings and I knew exactly what not to say or do to upset our grandmother. If you argued with her, pointed out that she had forgotten something, or asked if she needed help with anything, well, Lord help you. Of course, we didn't know that she had dementia. Her brain and personality were basically being hijacked. Of course, I wish I knew then what I've learned now. It would have made our relationship so much better. Since then, I hear stories from family members all the time about how difficult communicating with a loved one with memory loss can be. And these stories have another very important thing in common with my own: learning what's best not to say or do when we are with a loved one affected by memory loss, what I call the big no-nos. The best place to start is always your loved one's reality. Now, if you've noticed your loved one is struggling with memory, thinking, or personality changes, and they haven't been diagnosed, the time to get a diagnosis is now. We can't know what the best response may be if we don't know what we're dealing with. If your loved one has been diagnosed with dementia or Alzheimer's disease, the more you can find out about what stage they're in, the better able you'll be to anticipate what might trigger them. Either way, always keep in mind, it's all in their mind, and they have no control over what is happening to them. So little to no control over their behavior. We are the ones who need to adapt to their situation. Before we dive into these big no-nos, I want you to know I've included several resources in the show notes regarding all the information I'm sharing today in this episode. Now, we know each stage of dementia brings its own challenges, but there are basic guidelines on how to communicate with your loved one without raising the risk of conflict. Let's consider choice of words. And this one, I have to confess, can be really difficult, even for me. It's something that can just pop out without even thinking about it. Asking your loved one, "Don't you remember?" Or just plain, "Remember?" They can't remember, or there wouldn't be a need to ask them if they do. They may be at the stage where they don't remember that they can't remember. So what do we do instead? Here's a phrase I want you to always have at the ready. "I think I remember." And then add to that what you want them to remember. Let me give you an example. Instead of, "Mom, you have to pay these bills, remember?" Try this. "Mom, I think I remember you said you wanted to pay these bills today." And this works really well with lost items too. Instead of, "Dad, don't you remember you put your keys in your jacket pocket?" Try this. "Dad, I think I remember seeing you put your keys in your jacket. Let's check." By taking over the burden of remembering for them, you are in essence coming to the rescue without embarrassing them. Another issue has to do with how we ask them questions, and it's the difference between open-ended and basic choice questions. Open-ended questions being those that begin with who, what, where, when, or why. There are just too many possible answers for your loved one to choose from, and your loved one's ability to access their words, juggle choices in their mind, and do all of this in time to give you an answer are all diminishing. So let's lessen the demands. Give your loved one simple choices with a yes, no, or a this or that question. For example, instead of, "Mom, when do you want to leave?" try, "Mom, do you want to leave now or after we meet with Susie. Instead of, Dad, where do you want to go for lunch? Try, Dad, do you want to go to Applebee's or Olive Garden? So then it's not about your loved one being unable to find the words. They can just select the word they want. It's easier for them, and it helps them feel as if they still have a say in what they do. Here's something many families struggle with, that instinct to straighten your loved one out. And this is, of course, done with the best of intentions. We're thinking if only our loved one could see the reality of the situation, things would be so much easier for them. So we argue, we confront, or we try to reason with them. Let's start with arguing. One of our listeners shared with me the other day that her mother was starting to get paranoid and recently told her daughter that someone is stealing from my purse. I had $50 in there. And her daughter tried to make light of it by saying, "That's ridiculous, Mom. You never have $50 in your purse." But her mom became furious. Then we came up with a formula to turn this around. Let's acknowledge her feelings. Let's reassure her that it's going to be taken care of, and then let's distract her to something better. It would sound something like this. $50, Mom? That's a lot of money. You know what? I'm going to get to the bottom of this. Oh, and I wanted to tell you, Auntie Susie wants us to get together with her tomorrow to have lunch. Her daughter didn't agree with her mother. She just let her know that she was heard and understood, and then pointed her mom in a better direction. A few days later, I checked in with the daughter, and she told me this formula was working really well. Next, confronting your loved one with their problems and mistakes. Another big no-no. This would send my grandmother off the deep end. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Let's say your loved one says, "Stop doing things for me. I can take care of myself." Confronting them would sound something like, "Well, Dad, you're forgetting things. That's why I have to help you." They will likely flat out deny they're forgetting things and get really mad at you. And really, does anyone like being confronted with their failings? Try this. Apologize, tell them you made a mistake, reassure them, and then get them going in a better direction. Here's what that might sound like. "I'm sorry for trying to help you, Dad. That's not right. If you need help, you'll let me know. Oh, by the way, your grandson wants you to come over and watch the game with us tonight." These strategies can also help you avoid trying to reason with your loved one. Here's an interaction I heard between a husband and his wife the other day. She had recently been diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and she was shouting at him, "We don't need to take my car to the shop. It runs fine." And her husband replied, "Yes, honey, we do have to take it to the shop. We have to get the oil changed and the tires checked. We do this every 3,000 miles. Well, in this case, he was trying to reason with his wife, and it was too much information for her. And she didn't remember it was every 3,000 miles, and so she got more upset. Instead, I told him, try a short explanation before pointing her in a better direction. It would sound something like this. "Honey, it's just an oil change. I'm sorry, I forgot to put it on your calendar. You know, while they're changing the oil, let's go get some coffee and a Danish." Arguing, confronting, or trying to reason with a loved one with memory loss just doesn't work. You can't change your loved one's mind. So why try? My goal each week is to give you things you can use today. And the most important thing you can do to help yourself when moments like these arise is to not take it personally. Your loved one truly isn't trying to make you nuts. Their dementia is doing the talking. They're confused, they're frightened and frustrated. They can't keep up, and they can't help it. So when you feel defensive or angry and ready to fight back, try this. Take a breath and practice 100% forgiveness. Forgive them. And then forgive yourself, because this stuff is so hard. And neither of you really mean to upset the other. In fact, all you probably want to do or should do is just give each other a big hug when the going gets tough. And listen, if you are at the point that you just can't muster any of this, it's okay. Reach out to others. Reach out to family members. Let them take over for a few days. You deserve as much care and support as your loved one. Take a break. And finally, I'm going to ask you to start that 100% forgiveness with yourself right now, because no one is perfect at this. No one. You're doing the best you can. You're doing it from a place of love. And that is enough. I'm Kelly Burdenshaw, and it was my pleasure spending time with you today. Keep in touch.
Hi, I'm Peggy Wright, editor and producer of this podcast. Join Kelly each week as she talks about the issues facing families navigating a loved one's memory loss. If you like this episode, let us know by following A Balancing Act wherever you get your podcasts. Please take a moment to rate and review. Questions and comments for Kelly can be posted on our Facebook page. We will carefully craft our material to be relatable, relevant, and reliable. Links are in the show notes. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks again for joining us today.